Welcome, welcome. I am here with Keven Pham and Cryptocapitalist, and we're going to be talking about higher dimensional beings. So how are you guys doing?
Well, I've kind of been trying to think about what a higher dimensional being means to me. And, I mean, besides the idea of God, right? Like, or the universal father, I can't really think much beyond that. So, I'm curious what Kevin's kind of got on his mind for that.
Um, so I think the concept of are you hearing feedback?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me get my headphones real quick.
Okay, well, I'll just start talking about. So the reason I wanted to do higher dimensional beings is the other day I was on the Future Bitcoin SV channel with Shem and the Bitcoin Tramp and Sir Toshi, and they told me that we were going to talk about higher dimensional beings, but we never even got to that. And I thought that
Oh,
was a great
really?
topic. So I decided to suggest higher dimensional beings as the topic for today. So I'm going to talk about the book Flatland, which is one of my favorite science fiction books, and it was written in 1900. And there are a lot of parallels to this book, to what's going on in Bitcoin, I think. But the book is literally about higher dimensional beings, and it takes place on a. I'm hearing some sound coming from somewhere.
Might be me. I'll also do some headphones.
Okay. Oh, let me check the so well, now I'm hearing feedback. Okay, that's better. So anyway, so the book is literally about higher dimensional beings, and the story takes place in a universe that is two-dimensional, and the people living there are polygons, like from Euclidean geometry, and they have a society that is quite restrictive, and they have a lot of rules about people's positions in society. So one of the things about this society is that the more sides you have as a polygon, the higher you are in the hierarchy in polygon society. And the king is he's called a circle, but he actually is a polygon with so many sides that you can't tell that he's not a smooth curved shape. So the main character is called Mr. Square, and he meets a sphere from the third dimension, and the sphere tries to tell him about three dimensions, but he doesn't believe it. And but after he does believe it, and he tries to tell the other polygons about it, then he's put in prison for for um, for spreading the forbidden ideas.
Sounds very interesting.
Kind of sounds like what's going on in BTC right now.
Yes, because people in BTC want to they want to wall off their minds. So anybody. Oh, and here's another thing: the sphere in the story is really a curved surface, unlike the king polygon. So the sphere is like a genuine person. whereas the king polygon is like someone who gets his who gets who he is from other people, because they all say that he's a curved, perfect shape when he really isn't.
So can I make my BTC analogy?
Absolutely.
I'm already seeing the parallels.
Yeah.
So then, basically, these Raspberry Pi full node holders, they think that they're gods, and that in reality, they're basically they are very simple polygons with very few edges, and they don't really have a lot of autonomy or as much power as they think they have. And then when I try to tell them that the miners are really the gods and the spheres or the um, are the real kind of the ones with the autonomy and power over their lives, the high priests of the full node church or caste, they try to they try to silence me and selling my character and discredit me because I am revealing to the fact that these full node high priests actually don't have any power.
Yeah, I really agree with that. And the higher dimensional thing, I think, is a strong parallel as well, because whenever I talk to BTC supporters, it's like they can't understand the value proposition of BSV at all, and they're only capable of imagining that it's a scam, even though they cannot explain what the scam is. And not that this isn't unreasonable in Bitcoin, since there are many scams in Bitcoin, but like the ideas that they tell me about what the BSV scam is are so much more complicated and risky and elaborate than just really making it more valuable. Like, really being valuable is easier than like manipulating the market and
Yeah. So for example,
I'm not even
for example, they'll say this. I was like, okay, so look at Handcash or Bitstagram or MoneyButton. Look how well it works. And they go, but not decentralized. But it's not decentralized. But I was like, well, why does it need to be decentralized? Like, what value does that have? Like, elaborate on why that's important. Why? And they'll just throw it like a very blunt weapon out of like anything that I try to show them when I actually try to show them a working BSV project.
So this is why I always ask this question to people, and that is, how many times does the word or any derivatives of the word decentralize appear in the Bitcoin white paper?
Well, that's a good question. Where can you give me the answer?
There's many zeros there. It doesn't show up. You can search. It's and it's quite it's quite telling how this decentralization aspect has become so deeply ingrained. And what is decentralization? I mean, I had somebody tell me the other day, decentralization is Bitcoin. That's the way to measure.
Yeah.
Decentralization is just to look at Bitcoin and say, okay, is it like Bitcoin? Then it's decentralized. If it's not, then it's So, frankly,
and
I think a lot of it comes from that.
Yeah, and let's. I mean, I don't think, like, to BTC people, they think decentralized means equality, and it means nobody is special, and it means that they're like all of the mining nodes in BTC, according to their ideology, are like they're like poverty-stricken computers, and they think that a computer that becomes superior, so that it can process more data, that they think that is a threat to decentralization, and they don't seem to think that the economy needs to have actual commerce in it. And also, like, just because some nodes are more powerful than the rest, that doesn't, I mean, they can, I should say, not more powerful, but more prominent, right? And well, and more powerful in terms of the data that they can handle, right? That doesn't mean they are not more powerful economically, unless they can maintain that position. And all of the weaker nodes, all of the smaller nodes, are going to be looking for any weakness that they can use to gain more prominence. So, I mean, to me, decentralization means that there is the potential for turnaround. It doesn't mean that nobody is special right now. It means that nobody is special forever, right? So anybody can be rearranged and made to take a different position if they're not competitive. Whereas in core, they think that the Bitcoin core repository is special forever, and it's not Bitcoin if you're not following the GitHub repository.
Is this just because people are simple and they just can't handle like having to think about things?
Yes, everybody is stupid except us.
Well, you know, it's a painful thing. I'm not trying to say that everybody's stupid except for us, but I think there's definitely a difference between people who are willing to think about things and people who are just willing to accept things, right?
Yeah,
And
no, I was joking too, but
okay.
yeah, I think like everybody can become a better learner. Like, not that everybody is a genius, but everybody can get in the habit of exposing themselves to new information regularly. And in Bitcoin, that's kind of a necessity. It's kind of like a life skill, because information can be generated from anywhere in the network. So you have to you need to look around, because there's this effect of everything being rearranged. But if you're a BTC follower, you don't think things need to be rearranged.
I mean, some of these people are very
So I think I came up with a unique theory or observation that may have been uncovered in the past with like Nietzsche and whatnot regarding the slave and the master morality. Was that I discovered, I've been starting this BTC is Marxist meme, this BTC is communist meme, and people don't get it. They think it's capitalist or free. But then what I've discovered is that people have a human vulnerability to Marxist and collectivist ideas. And the reason why it's not a kind of an intellectual or a political appeal, it's appeal to our human nature. So basically I've realized that for just by self-respecting on my behavior when I was kind of a BTC core troll, as a human being, we all like deeply in a primal way desire autonomy and power over our lives. And we do not like the feeling of being helplessness or that something higher than us can control us, because we want to be able to survive in our world, and knowing that we don't have complete autonomy and freedom to act in the world, it goes against our survival instinct. So basically the appeal of Marxism and collectivism is that everybody equally, just by the merit of existing, you have economic, political, and social power. And telling people that is intoxicating to the masses. And then that's the real reason why, these ideas never go away, because it's a fundamental vulnerability in human nature that certain kind of Machiavellian people know to play to. And I think what happened to BTC and how it turned communist was that, so then over time there's competition in the space. And basically, people who are early, who cannot keep up with the competition, are getting obsoleted. CPU miners got obsoleted by GPU miners. GPU miners got obsoleted by ASIC miners. People that are running home nodes are getting obsoleted by, corporate business nodes. And basically what happens every time, as opposed to telling people the truth that, hey, this is a competitive, evolutionary system, and if you don't keep up, it's Darwinian, to where you're going to be, removed from the gene pool or removed from the ecosystem. What they say is they make a Marxist appeal that this person that's out competing you is evil. They're evil, and they're trying to, take control of the system. Therefore, we need, like Equihash, a more egalitarian, mining, algorithm, which makes no, economic sense as a general purpose, algorithm, or that your whole hobby node has, equal power in over.
I'm sorry, we're getting some really horrible noise from your microphone. So I don't know what's happening, but you're blasting my eardrums apart. And other than that, I agree wholeheartedly with everything that you're saying. So I want to talk about some of my experience with Litecoiners, because that's how Litecoin got started. Is people who were outcompeted in mining in Bitcoin. They believed that they should be able to just run their computers and passively make income from that. And in the early days of Litecoin, this is what all of the conversations that I had with Litecoiners was about, because they would say it's easier to get into mining if you do Litecoin. And I would say, well, that doesn't mean that Litecoin is valuable. Okay, it doesn't mean anything. You're just saying that that you don't like it, that Bitcoin is competitive. And I just remember somebody saying something to me where it was like, what about the little guy? What about the small time miner, in his hovel or something? I don't know, but but it's like, why? It's so strange, because like the Marxists all say that selfishness is evil, but what is more selfish than saying that the network needs to be small and weak, because I want to be able to encompass the whole thing in my computer?
So beautiful. Well said. Yeah, absolutely. Litecoin is really a special kind of thing. Like, I mean, and I think you've kind of hit it right on the head there. It's really that mentality that we don't want to compete. We just want to be given something. We don't want to have to earn it. We don't want to have to work for it. We don't want to have to build it. We just want to just have it, just give it to us. And that's, like Keven was saying, indicative of the BTC community. And I think it's even becoming indicative of society itself right now, outside, and by outside, I mean outside of crypto. I was just talking to this lady the other day, and she's a 50-year-old white woman, and she teaches at a university course about white privilege. She gets paid $90,000 a year. She works like 2 days a week, and she has 6 months vacation a year.
Wow.
And it's all paid
What?
for
6 months.
6 months. And it's all paid for by the taxpayer.
Yeah.
Right. And so, and then she's like, it's socialism.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, I mean, it's hard to be like, you shouldn't do that, because obviously, I mean, why not, right? Somebody's going to pay you $90,000 to speak about white privilege, and you're white. I mean, but I just feel like it's so indicative of where we are in this world, and it really shows how important Bitcoin is, because in order for humanity to continue its progress towards some sort of destiny, some sort of instead of just stagnating. And because the moment you start stagnating, the moment you're not progressing, you're in a decline. So in order to progress, you need competition. And Bitcoin is that competition now. We can have something that will unite us in a challenge, right? I mean, it's the same thing as playing sports or whatever, by competing, you make yourself better. You make the community better. You make the world better. Competition is crucial to humanity.
Yeah, well, I mean, one of the great things about Bitcoin mining is how it forces you to optimize, because it sets an income floor, and anything below the floor needs to go.
Mhm.
So, and well, I really like what you were saying about competition making things better, because that's one of the great things about a capitalist society, is that the competition is about improving society. So people always focus on like the bad conditions in factories when they talk about the evils of capitalism, but you like people have to work to bring themselves out of poverty, and it's not like people would be doing that if they had better options. But the end result is that everything is cheaper and more efficient, so that in the end people do have better options. And also, like, Keven, what you were saying about Darwinian evolution, I think that this is one of the things that people don't like about capitalism. Is I think of capitalism as being kind of a return to nature, because it means new growth can happen from anywhere. And I think that people have an instinct to believe that their civilization is separate from nature. and to believe that they're civil, like they have control, like civilization is controlled and designed by humans. But it's much better when in a capitalist society everything is designed, but the whole thing is not designed. It's like every piece is designed, but it's all designed to fit together with what existed before. It's not like there's one central point that is designing everything. Oh, and I went off topic what I was going to say, but I think that one of the things people I think what people don't like about capitalism is just things not to like about life itself. Because life is fundamentally competitive, because there's limited resources and limited space. So everything, like the any population is all in competition with itself for better reproductivity. And that's like that's harsh. Like nature is a hard place, right? And you can't escape from it, but people want to escape in their imaginations.
Yeah,
but the more you escape, the more painful it is.
Yeah, well, that's
in the near term, lying to yourself is it feels good. And I think the perspective that I want to bring to it is to bring the logic of why people are illogical, because I don't know if it's seriously helpful to kind of like sit up here, kind of in a kind of a maybe kind of an arrogant way to say like these people are dumb or whatever. I think there's a logic or a reason why they're easily misled or not really understanding what their real interests are, and just it's just a very very simple thing that if you tell a child that they can have everything that they want and they don't have to work for it, you're going to be a very popular person, right? The parent that comes up to you and says that no, you have to earn everything that you get. You have to do your chores before you have your dessert and whatnot. They're not going to be a popular parent, to where the parent that spoils their kid gets very popular in the short term, but damages the child in the long term. So I think it's a very rational short-term optimization, and there's people that play off that. So my thing is like the way to solve it is um, to package this message that is somewhat unpalatable and kind of not attractive, and to tell them what the benefit is. And I think before I talked to Evan about this, that there is a very possibility that everybody talking in this podcast right now is going to be obsoleted by the market.
Mm-hmm.
If Bitcoin really does break down all the kind of regulatory and kind of international arbitrage barriers to competition, that's opening up ourselves to competition of 7.5 billion people. And I think is that, intuitively, I don't like that, but principally, I understand it and I acknowledge it. And I think that there's a lot of people that understand things conceptually, but they're not able to separate their ego from that concept. So so basically, from what I see, is I am in favor of free market capitalism, but I am conscious in knowing that same free market capitalism will obsolete me from being relevant in Bitcoin. And I accept that, and I know I have what I have to do in order to stay relevant and to generate economic profits for myself. But in reality, if you do have millions of dollars invested in your operation or your mining farm, and you're saying that the free market is going to make you bankrupt, and you're not going to be able to feed your family, you are not going to accept that lightly, and then you are going to kick and scream and vilify people and and lobby regulators to protect you in your position. So I think in reality, conceptually, we can all agree with this, but theoretically, we can all agree with free market capital is good, but in reality, it is very difficult and very hard, and the results aren't very good. I mean, there's a bunch of entrepreneurs that go bust and they disappear from the world. So my thing would be to package it in a way that's palatable, in that free market competition, that even though you're not the one that's winning or producing, you will win because they'll be innovating and creating great products that make your life better. And then second, growing and learning and achieving is fun and satisfying, right? As opposed to be given things. Like, I think one thing on Twitter, I've always said that I'm very big on personal growth, and I always want to destroy the old Keven. I said that every year. My goal,
I love that. That's awesome.
My goal, my goal in 2018 is to destroy 2017 Keven. My goal in 2019 is to destroy 2018 Keven. And basically, at on the surface, it looks like I'm being hypocritical, but in reality, I think I'm growing very quickly. And basically, I'm dropping the old ideas that were proved to be, incorrect. And I'll just leave it at this: the fact of the matter is that, like Jeff Bezos says, where your margin is my opportunity. Right now, the Bitcoin is inefficient. There's high margins in providing exchange services, mining, and whatnot. That is going to signal to the market for competitors to enter, and for the market to get very, very efficient. So I'm being very real and sober with people in Bitcoin. Just like, hey, just because you're in Bitcoin now, just because you're early, doesn't mean that you're going to stay here. And you have to be conscious of that and do what you have to do to stay on top of things, which is constantly growing, constantly getting an edge in order to stay relevant.
Oh, well, yeah, I really liked all of that. Well, Aristotle said that the true happiness comes from realizing your potential. So, in order to do that, you need to you need to do a lot of work to be able to invest in yourself. And also, I really agree that it's about people not understanding their own self-interest, because capitalism drives a hard bargain, but really the alternative is just being able to keep lying to yourself. So
I think Ruth brings up a really good point, and I think it kind of goes along the lines that there's a lot of LARPing in this whole thing. In crypto, it's full of LARPers, and
let's read out what she said. She said, I think BSV is superior to BTC because its elegant simplicity and incentives mean it functions passively, whereas BTC is pedaling furiously without actually moving. Oh my God. Yeah.
So, I mean, that just kind of brings to mind this, and I think that's also something very indicative of society today is that we kind of, people have this feeling that they should just, try really hard and just make it look like they're trying really hard, or, just like work is something that if it looks like you're doing a lot of work, then that's work.
Yeah. Good point. Because Marx believed in the labor theory of value, but it's actually really bad if you're working hard and you're not working efficiently.
Yes.
Yeah, and also, again, how's my mic, by the way?
Well, it's just that sometimes there have been these short bursts of static coming from you, but I haven't heard anything for a while, so okay. I think you're okay.
So here's the thing. I think so I'm lazy, and it's a blessing and a curse, because I can be very efficient. And I'll just find like the most simplest way to get things done. But at the same time, I could be a little bit more kind of disciplined and consistent in what I do. But my thing is that, again, how do we? I mean, I don't think that. I don't think necessarily. I think the connotation. I think I'm using that term. That is that work is hard, and it sucks, and it's a lot of sacrifice and whatnot. I don't necessarily think that's optimal. I I think what was optimal is that if you can make work fun and joyful, and to that would make it super efficient where people love to engage with it.
Mm-hmm.
So for example, like gamifying things, it makes the work fun. I mean, you have to make sure that the incentives are in a way to where people don't game and have kind of unintended consequences. That happens a lot in finance, especially. But ideally, you want to make work fun. So for example, like, a lot of people tell me that like I tweet so much and they wonder like, how do I have the stamina to like just keep on going and doing that? And I was like, dude, like it's like breathing for me. Like I need to get it out for me to like, to make more space to make space for like new ideas, and like I love it, and I put things out and I get things back, and it constantly grows, and it's joy and it's bliss. Like it's not work for me. And I think there's a lot of professions where it's just joy and there's bliss, and they just get very, very efficient and good at it. And I think that's where how we want, that's the goal that we want, and that's how we want to package it. Because if you say that, oh no, it's just going to be like a hard slog, people are going to do so for example, I was an Uber driver, and it was almost like a video game, and I was like, can I beat my high score today? But then the points that I'm earning is money.
Yeah.
Right. I was trying to like optimize my route to see, how much money, how I can beat my high score today and tomorrow. And I think and if we can like gamify work or whatever, we can totally have kind of a orders of magnitude, like exponential, like increase in productivity, as opposed to like, saying this like proof of work, this work thing is all about sacrifice and pain and whatnot, when it shouldn't be. And that you should not equate pain with work. My thing is that like I look at human beings like like an ant colony. There are certain ants that are born to do certain things, right? Or in a pride of lions, right? So then in an ant colony, there's certain ants that are born to be queens and be army ants and worker ants. And if you try to get a ant that's born to do something and do something else, they're not going to do it well, and they're going to have a lot of stress. Or in a lion, the lioness is supposed to hunt, and the male lions are supposed to protect the territory. So with human beings, I firmly believe that there's certain human beings that are meant to fulfill certain roles in the society. You have people that love protecting, being a soldier, being a police officer. You love people that love to think and commentate. You love people that like to work with their hands or whatever. And ideally, and also like there's people that are like somewhat sociopathic, and people say that's a kind of a negative, like antisocial trait. But in reality, sometimes maybe being like an army general or a CEO is where they should be. So my thing is that if we can move away from that, the fact that like work is supposed to be hard and difficult, and that it's like fun and growth, and like improving is fun and growing. I think that's important. And I think, if you look at Craig Wright, who kind of epitomizes this thing, or Unwriter, my thing is they get extreme joy out of what they do. They're meant to do this, and they clearly cannot stop. And that's why when you look at them, you're like, wow, Unwriter, wow, Craig, you guys are just producing so much like productivity, like it's amazing. It's tiring, and this thing is, it's tiring for your perspective because you're not them. You're meant to do something else. But yeah, I think I'm onto something here to where, Craig loves, writing papers and like getting down to things and analyzing things and, coming up with theories. Unwriter loves just pumping out apps. I love pumping out, tweets and observations and whatnot. Daniel loves, telling stories and Cryptocapitalist, like, I know you love the kind of talking about the humanitarian side and also, making investments and putting, your money behind your ideas.
I love
but,
learning.
but yeah, the long story short is that
learning.
I think that we should make work fun and make it very appealing to people. Because I think it's fundamentally true that real good work, optimized work is fun.
Well, so first of all, I have a quote from Bill Gates. I choose a lazy person to do a hard job because a lazy person will find an easy way to do it. And second, as to gamifying things, that's one of the great things about Bitcoin is that the difficulty always adjusts. So it's always the most engaging possible game. But I would like to ask about how tweeting is work, if you don't mind.
I mean, I do have people that reach out to me and say that, I learn a lot and I enjoy your tweets and whatnot. And basically, I'm getting valuable information into the market and I'm getting attention with that. So, I mean, to me, I'm basically helping my investment by making the market more efficient, right? So you take a position and then you release the information that you have into the market, and then hopefully your investment, goes up as the market gets more efficient. But I think I have a lot of, hedge funds and whatnot following me. But also, by generating attention, there are advertisers that reach out to me that, they might want to, work with me. But long story short, it's generating content. And with content, you get a kind of a natural resource, which is attention, who you can sell to, advertisers, or if you want your content consumers to be your customer, then you can do like a subscription basis.
I think Keven is, a very good example of an investor advocate. And I think that's an important role. Is it work? Well, I think in Kevin's case, it absolutely is work. I think in other people's cases, it's just LARPing. So how do you determine if it's work? Well, I think
I have a definition. Definition.
Yeah,
so to me, like, work is. I was reading George Gilder, and he says, like, all economic productivity comes from surprise information, right? So then the fact that I always say something new, or like I challenge the consensus, the fact that I'm creating surprise in the market, I'm creating growth. So then that's to me is the definition of work, as opposed to being a normal LARPer or a cult member, to where you constantly repeat what somebody else already says. You're not bringing anything new or creative to the market. So I think that may be the difference between work and non-work in regards to Twitter.
Oh, okay. Because I like Twitter a lot, but I see it as a way of engaging with people, and I like it because I've never been popular before.
Yeah, well, the thing is, it's all relative again, right? So then, I mean, like, I think Unwriter or Craig Wright would say that, like, this is not even work to me. I just love doing it, and I love it so much that I got really good at it, and now people pay me a lot of money. To where there's talk show hosts, podcasts hosts that literally just sit there and talk all day, and to them that's work. So again, I think it goes back to work is relative to what you and your consumers value.
Yeah, it's all about value. All about value.
Yeah. So it's like if a tree fell in the forest and nobody was there to listen, did it make a sound? Also, it's like, if you're providing a product but nobody wants it, are you really working?
No.
Or nobody's willing to pay for it, are you really working?
Yeah. Ultimately, it's about generating a sustainable income, and whatever does that is
Work.
work. Yeah.
Yep.
I want to get back onto the higher dimensional beings and how they play a role in our lives. And I mean that probably you guys have seen the show American Gods. Have you seen that? Have you heard of this? It's
No, I
based
don't
off
know.
a pretty
I
famous
haven't.
book. You haven't?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think I've read the book.
Okay, a fantastic book. Television show is marvelous as well. And I think that kind of brings about that perspective that social media is like a higher dimensional being, like in a sense, because it has a way of influencing us. It has a way of you know almost being a god, right? Media is a god. It's a modern day god, just as you know Zeus or whoever was a god back in the days prior to the takeover of monotheism, and I think that kind of plays a big role in how people behave and how people see the world, and so if you're in a social media bubble, right? If you're in the realm of this god and it's influencing you towards a certain direction, then it seems like that would be a very easy way to become trapped worshiping the Lightning Network, worshiping Bitcoin Core, worshiping, this sort of communistic, you know, I don't even, it's communist, but it's also kind of something unique too in its own way.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's one of the reasons that I never wanted to argue too much with the core people and try to refute everything they're saying, because you would have to write a book as big as Das Kapital in order to deal with all of their ideas.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and I have a quote from the paper on the Mandela Network. It's the paper's called Mandela Networks: Ultra Robust, Ultra Small World, and Highly Sparse Graphs. And the quote is, "In small world networks, the fact that the diameter of the graph does not grow faster than log n implies an infinite dimension."
Mm. Interesting. Well, I guess we should start drawing some mandalas. Anybody have any colored sand? We could start making like Bitcoin mandalas here. Yeah, I spent a little bit of time as a novice monk in Thailand, and when I had a bit of a foray into Buddhism and that. And one of the things that I learned is that when we look at the universe around us, it really is deeply connected in so many small ways, like, and it's so easy to ignore them. It's so easy to ignore the connections, but it really, I mean, the universe is tiny in so many ways. It's massive, but it's also, much like you're saying, like in a small world kind of uh, plane, everything is just so close. So I could see Bitcoin in a way representing the universe as how every little thing can affect another little thing. And the moment that you realize that, and you realize just how beautiful that is, it kind of allows you to see it as you know beyond just this dimension, just our computers and whatnot, and see it as almost as a new universe. We've created a new universe. Is this thing working?
I'm still on.
Okay.
Maybe Daniel jumped off.
Oh, did he? Oh, okay. Oh no. Oh, we might have lost him.
Yeah. So then I switched my camera. Hopefully the sound is better. But I'm seeing a lot of people were complaining about it. Is that better?
Yeah, it's much better. Yeah, Daniel's asking if we can hear him.
No, we can't.
No.
Yeah. So then, so we're going back to the concept of higher beings, right?
Mm-hmm.
And my thing is that it's incredibly relative. There's like a lot of layers to that, right? So it's basically, there are certain levels of consciousness, and an entity at a lower consciousness will perceive whatever is at a higher consciousness as a god, right? So your chihuahua will perceive you as a god, and it will worship you and protect you, right? And then the ant will perceive your chihuahua as a god because the chihuahua can basically end its life. It's kind of an omnipotently all-powerful being. And then when it comes to human beings, and maybe other human beings, there's some human beings that are just like at such high level of consciousness, like Elon Musk or whatever, and people will consider he's a god because he can literally make magic happen, right? But in reality, he has just a very, very advanced understanding of how the world works, and he's at a higher consciousness. And then maybe Craig Wright or whatever miner or whatever is considered a god to Bitcoiners. That's why they can't understand. They can't understand the point. But also, I think with Bitcoiners is that I think kind of like the core small block, kind of faction, or the interest aligned with that faction have told all the node holders that they are gods, and then the fact that we're here and telling them that they're not gods, that's very upsetting to them. And the reason why they can't understand that is that maybe we're not gods in ourselves. Is that we just took the time to understand Bitcoin a lot better, and So I think the whole like higher level, being or whatever is just all kind of very relative, and I think to talk about the third, fourth, and fifth dimensions, that maybe there are beings in those dimensions that see us like ants or chihuahuas or whatever, and it's just simple fact that we don't have their level of consciousness, and that's why we consider them a god.
Yeah. I mean, that's a very good point. I think at the same time, I would also argue that in a way, we're all gods, right? Like we all have the capacity to be very powerful. And I don't mean that in the traditional sense of power. I mean that in the creative sense of power, or the destructive sense of power, right? So in a way, we're all gods, but just how much we realize that affects how much we're able to create, and bring our ideas into this world, right? So, there's you've probably heard of Alan Watts. He definitely has some amazing works on basically bringing people into the fold on what they can be, right? I mean, everybody has the potential, I believe, to transcend the sort of greed and the sort of things that pull us down, that that deviate our focus from the noble goals. When I mean noble goals, and maybe these, Daniel has some ideas on that, and you too. I just think of noble goals as goals that look to do good in the world, right? And it doesn't necessarily have to fully, bring that into fruition, but that these are noble pursuits, at least. And that can be by bringing opportunity to people, right? So if you bring a lot of opportunity, then maybe you're a hero, maybe you're a god, depending on the amount of opportunity that you can bring to people's lives, right? And so ultimately, your value derives from your ability to bring opportunity or of the value of something. In this case, Bitcoin. Maybe Bitcoin is a higher dimensional being. And if we could, see all the potential opportunities, because we can't, right? I mean, there's so many new opportunities with Bitcoin now than I, had ever thought of even a year ago, right? So, with BSV, we can see that there's more opportunities, and that just means that, okay, well, now these are the opportunities that we can see right now, and because we couldn't see those before, now we can just think that there must be even more opportunities. And so whoever can deliver the most opportunities in this world, I think, becomes the highest dimensional being. And so it seems like Bitcoin is that, right? Maybe Bitcoin is the highest dimensional being we have right now, just by the amount of opportunities it's bringing forth.
Yeah, well, sometimes people use chess as a metaphor, and they say like Donald Trump is playing 3D chess or something. So yeah, and like the higher dimension as kind of a metaphor for seeing farther, for understanding more about the potential of the world. I think that is really a powerful idea. And when I read this book Flatland, when I was younger, it really opened my mind, because the whole idea of the book is that the main characters are two-dimensional, and
Dude, I think there's a mic in my headphones. I think that's why. I think that's why I'm getting feedback. There's a mic in my headphones.
Yes, folks.
Anyways,
a special type of feedback, a liquid feedback.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyways,
Well,
keep it going.
I'm glad we solved that problem. So the idea is that the two-dimensional beings don't believe in the third dimension. And so when I first read this, when I was a kid, I just thought about the fourth dimension, because that's what I thought the book was really about, and I tried to think about the geometry of the fourth dimension. And reading it again now, I understand that the point is a lot more than just mathematics. It's about being open to the idea that there are people who open to the idea that there's more knowledge, there's more to the world that is going to break your conception of it.
Yeah. So I want to touch on a couple, or I want to build on a lot of your points. So first, Daniel, I think the thing is that I think being conscious that there are other dimensions, or there is unknowns out there, or blind spots out there. It humbles you, and it also makes you more curious. What's going on?
Well, did you know that everybody could hear you pissing earlier?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, that happened on in a DeRose interview when I was using the same headphones.
Oh, okay.
Apparently there's a mic there. See, that's another level of consciousness that I came to. But yeah. So then basically the thing is that I think BTCers, they think that there is no third dimension, that they figured it out, to where we know that there's still unknowns out there. And also for me, like, my goal is to acknowledge that I have blind spots and to go explore those blind spots. So it's like, that Age of Empires game, to where you send out a scout and it's black, and then they start revealing land, out from other things. So yeah, accepting the fact that there are unknowns out there that you don't know. I think that's a good disposition to have, that we don't know everything yet. And to crypto-capitalists, to your point, sorry, what was your kind of two main points again?
Oops, did we lose him?
Yeah, no. Oh, what was your two main points again? I was going to speak about it in your segment that you just said.
To Daniel? Yeah.
Yeah. What were you saying earlier?
Me?
About people being gods, right?
Oh yeah, sure, absolutely.
Oh yeah.
Well, about Bitcoin being God in a way, because it delivers so much opportunity, right? Like, just like you deliver this opportunity to your Chihuahua by giving it food and giving it love and giving it this petting, and it's it gives the opportunity for the dog to feel safe and happy and loved and cared for and free, and so in a way Bitcoin does that, right? To us, it gives these opportunities, but it can also take them away, right? It can also, if you lose that connection with what Bitcoin is about, then it's gonna come and find you. It's gonna actually leave you. It's gonna be like, boom, guess what, buddy? The moment you think you are above Bitcoin is the moment that the game is over for you, and you're already getting moved over to the sideline. So I think in a way, Bitcoin is like God, and because ultimately, you have no power over Bitcoin.
Yeah, and that reminds me of what I wanted to expand upon. So basically, like the market, or the invisible hand, that was kind of like a deity, right, or capitalism or whatever. And then Bitcoin is the evolution of that. So then right now, capitalism is kind of figured out, and Bitcoin is kind of like this new deity because it's another level of consciousness. It's an improvement. And your point about we can all be gods, I think I constantly try to reiterate this in crypto Twitter, because I think people see the state as God, right? That they can destroy us. And I'm like, stop being so scared. Like AOC and Trump, they're not from the system, and they're making waves in our government. And I did a tweet. I said, I'm not afraid of a state attack, because I believe that somebody in crypto Twitter today will be the president of the United States in a couple of years. Wow. And the thing is, like, everybody's smart here. Who knows? It could be any of us, right? But then that's saying that we can be, we can be gods. And I'm like, I'm not scared of miner. I want to become a miner. I'm not going to be scared of state. I want to be the head of my own sovereign nation.
Yeah.
Right. So if you're aware of these possibilities, then you have nothing to fear, and you're just optimistic. I think, back in 2017, I used to look like Adam Back or like Greg Maxwell as a god. And then I constantly, or Vitalik, and I constantly tried to, challenge them and to get on their level. And eventually, I think I did get or surpass their level. And then to me, they're not gods, and I don't fear them anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, first of all, Keven, I admire your confidence, and I would
Well,
like.
it's a rational.
Yeah, I'm gonna
It's a
vote for
rational.
Daniel to be president.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
No, but
Speaking of being
it's a
president,
rational disposition.
speaking of being president, none of the candidates are talking about how we need to increase the national hash power.
Right.
So that's going to
Right.
be my
So
main
then,
platform.
So then, that's why I'm saying that in a couple of years we can have a Bitcoin president that understands Bitcoin, and then they will see Bitcoin as part of the national interest, and then all these scared, full node, recluses in their basements hiding away, waiting for, the state to kind of clamp down. It's like, well, why don't you get off your butt and become a politician, and you'll have nothing to worry about.
Well, so anyway, I would like to wrap things up around here, but I want to close. I want to go back to the book Flatland, because
Sure.
there is an aspect of the book that I didn't talk about yet, but I think that, and it's only for people who listened this far into the broadcast. So I think that Flatland has the key to attracting more women into Bitcoin.
Ooh.
So what I didn't talk in the book, the males in the two-dimensional world are polygons, but the females are actually one-dimensional line segments, and they're dangerous because if you approach them from the wrong direction, you might not be able to see them, and they're very sharp. So, so I think that the key to attracting more women into Bitcoin is insulting them.
Interesting. It's a very interesting idea, right? Because it's going to drive them, it's going to push them, right? So
Yeah.
they want to change that, and frankly, I think it's going to be a challenge. I mean, I'm not really good at insulting people, particularly women. But what do you think? How can we do that? How can we insult some women into
by calling them one-dimensional line segments and saying that the book Flatland is accurate? So then they'll want to come into Bitcoin to indoctrinate me to show why that's incorrect.
I like it. I like it a lot.
So I challenge any women who have not achieved higher dimensional status yet to prove to me that they're not one-dimensional line segments.
I love it.
So anything else?
I had a few things, and it's just like every time there's something more interesting that comes along, and it just blows that thought right out of the water.
Oh, sorry.
That's all right. I like that personally, but I think it's a very interesting book, and I'm gonna definitely check it out now. I mean, you really got me interested.
Okay, good.
So I'm not a woman, but it still got me interested.
Okay. Well, anyway, it was really great talking to you guys. And any final thoughts, Keven?
Well, I don't know. I'm just addicted. I think it's just like my role in the world to kind of be the devil's advocate or the contrarian. And I guess with that being said, first, I always want to push and challenge my friends. So with Daniel, I always say that, maybe you're a little bit too, theoretic, and you need to be empirical, that most people are not, rational, and try to like understand how the lowest common denominator thinks, and then incorporate that into your worldview. So like, I said these things, there might be like a black swan to where, there's a crazy, jihadi, BTCer that will try to like, think that we are really a state attack, whatever, and we'll try to, use violence or something to kind of stop this. So it's just a very like the world is like, very chaotic. And also like, I think, we're speaking very utopian, right? And intuitively, I think I know that, speaking, utopian is usually not always a healthy or rational thing. And I think, a lot of times that happens in tech, right? It was like, oh, think about all the great use cases and stuff that are going to happen and all the liberation that's going to happen. But then they also neglect to see all the kind of the mimetic rivalry and the kind of the demons that can be like released, with the internet or whatnot that we see as well. So, I'm in the kind of like the BSV Slack, and I'm like, what, like, before we get like so confident that we're ushering in this future, like think about, the things that can go wrong, or maybe think about the things that we're not doing right. Maybe like, shitting on Bitcoiners, or like making everybody, like nagging everybody and making people not like us is maybe not the right thing. And empirically, maybe like being Vitalik, to where he tries to be very appealing to a large audience, backed up with the fact that we really do not we really do know what we're doing. We do really, what we're doing is really going to work. Maybe that's the most effective way forward.
Oh, sure. Well, everybody is different, as you were talking about earlier.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
people have their own niches to fill.
So,
yeah.
So Keven has kind of, brought this up a few times. I mean, at least brought this up in my mind a few times, and maybe people have heard it before, but there are known knowns, right? So there are things we know, and we also know there are known unknowns. But there are also unknown unknowns, right? So these kind of things, when we talk utopianism, or when we talk this great world of the future where Bitcoin SV is ubiquitous in our lives, and where we're able to connect in ways that never were able to do so before, we can assume that there's going to be we can know that there's going to be some sort of problems, of course, but at the same time, we also know that we can't possibly ever know all of these things. And so when we look at the future, what we want to do is we want to look at what is it that people are going to value? What is it that people really are going to find useful in their lives? And how is that going to impact them? And if we can focus in on those things, it can sometimes look very positive, but it gives us a sense of where we're going, where we're aiming, right? Like, when you're trying to shoot a target, for instance, what you want to do is you want to get what's basically, you're not even looking at exactly where you want to hit. You're trying to feel where you want to hit. You're trying to absorb where you want to hit. You're trying to make sure that you're not focusing on missing. That's the most important thing. Like, you want to make sure that your mind isn't caught up in all the other possibilities besides hitting that target. And,
okay, well, great thoughts. And I have to go now, so I'm going to have to end the broadcast. but I really had fun talking with you guys, and I'll see you around see you in the next dimension.
Lots of
Hopefully.
love to everybody.